listen closely. This isn't just another message. This is a divine announcement, a shift in the unseen, a signal that heaven has opened a new chapter over your life. You have entered the threshold of overflow. For too long, you've been surviving on what felt like fragments. Small victories, temporary reliefs, moments of hope followed by waiting again. But that waiting season was not wasted. Every delay was divine preparation, every limitation was temporary, and every closed door was only a setup for what's about to burst forth. The Spirit is saying you are stepping into a realm where limitations break, where what once resisted you must now release you, where what was withheld must now be returned multiplied, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. There's a reason you felt tension lately. Spiritual pressure, emotional stretching moments where your faith felt tested beyond measure. That was not punishment. It was expansion. God was enlarging your capacity to carry more. You cannot pour new oil into an old vessel, and you cannot carry overflow with a restricted mindset. So he had to stretch you to prepare you to teach you how to sustain what's coming. You may not have seen it yet, but something in the Spirit is already breaking open. Opportunities that once seemed impossible will now appear with divine ease. Connections that were silent will suddenly respond. Doors that have been locked for years will open without resistance. Hear this clearly: the limitation that once defined you is now being destroyed by divine decree. God is not just removing obstacles, He's removing the system of limitation itself. The same way the walls of Jericho fell at a shout, every invisible barrier around your destiny is collapsing under divine command. You are being ushered into a flow that never runs dry, into favor that doesn't fade, into opportunities that align perfectly with your divine purpose. So don't shrink back now. Don't question whether you're ready. You've been refined for this moment. Heaven is declaring over you, it is time to overflow. This isn't ordinary increase. This is the abundance that breaks patterns, heals lack, and rewrites your story. Stay still for a moment. Feel it. The shift is already happening. And now in this stillness, the Spirit begins to speak. Not through the noise of the world, not through fear or confusion, but through the quiet certainty that settles deep within your soul. You felt this stirring before, that subtle yet undeniable awareness that something greater is moving behind the veil. It's not imagination. It's divine orchestration. Heaven has been arranging what eyes could not see and ears could not hear. While you thought nothing was happening, God was setting the table. He was preparing the feast before your enemies. Every hidden detail, every unseen moment of obedience, every tear you cried in silence, they became the seeds that are now breaking the surface. This is not a random blessing coming your way. This is divine recompense. This is heaven honoring faith that refused to die. You see, overflow isn't just about material abundance. It's the manifestation of divine alignment. It's when what you carry finally matches what was spoken over you. It's when prophecy catches up with process. The overflow begins when your internal faith and heaven's external timing finally collide. God is saying, I am breaking the ceiling you thought was permanent. The invisible barriers that kept you limited, fear, doubt, comparison, scarcity, are being dismantled. Every chain that tried to convince you this is all you'll ever have is melting under the fire of divine truth. This word comes not as suggestion, but as confirmation. The waiting has produced authority in you. You no longer ask from a place of desperation, but from inheritance. You no longer reach with trembling hands, but with confidence, because you now understand it was always yours. So, as this revelation unfolds, listen carefully. Heaven doesn't waste words. Every syllable released in this season carries weight. The message being delivered to your spirit is precise, a reminder that overflow is not something you chase. It's something you become. When God says, "I will break every limitation," He's not only speaking about your finances, your relationships, or your opportunities. He's speaking about the boundaries of your belief. Because sometimes the greatest prison isn't external, it's internal. It's the thought that says, "I'm not ready," or "I don't deserve it." But the truth is, you've already been approved by heaven. This divine message descends like rain, gentle yet unstoppable. It seeps into the soil of your faith, awakening what has been dormant. And as it does, heaven whispers again, the season of limitation has expired. The river of overflow is now flowing toward you. Pause and breathe that in. The drought is over. The heavens are open. And the same God who sustained you in the wilderness is now ushering you into the land of promise, not barely surviving, but overflowing. Something holy is stirring in the atmosphere. You can sense it like the faint scent of rain before the downpour, like the shift of wind that tells you the season has changed. It's subtle, but your spirit recognizes it. The tides are turning, and heaven is declaring the era of lack is closing, and the age of overflow is here. This overflow isn't just water flowing from a cup, it's heaven's abundance breaking through earthly resistance. It's divine supply outpacing every past shortage. It's the supernatural current of provision that moves faster than your need. And now it has your name written upon it. For years, the enemy tried to convince you that your portion was small, that you were called to live in almosts and nearlies. He tried to train your heart to expect delay, to fear disappointment, to normalize the struggle. But God never designed you for limitation. You were designed for dominion. You were built to expand, to multiply, to overflow with His goodness. So the word that comes forth now is not just a promise, it's a decree. Every barrier is breaking. Every dry place will be drenched. Heaven has opened the floodgates. That means opportunities that were withheld are about to release. That means people who overlooked you will now have to recognize the anointing you carry. That means what was locked behind bureaucracy, confusion, or spiritual warfare is being released into your hands. There is a transfer taking place, a divine exchange of seasons. The barren places are becoming fruitful. The silent areas are becoming loud with praise. What was once your wilderness is becoming your garden. But this overflow is not random. It's targeted. It flows where alignment exists. It flows where obedience met endurance. It flows where faith refused to break. You've prayed long enough to see it. Now you'll live long enough to hold it. Some of you will notice that the same situations that used to drain you will now strengthen you. The same people who underestimated you will now witness your elevation. And the same enemy who tried to bury you will have to watch you blossom. Because when God breaks limitations, He doesn't do it quietly. He does it in a way that makes His glory undeniable. You'll feel the acceleration. The timing of heaven will synchronize so perfectly that you'll realize this was never coincidence, it was divine choreography. For a long time, you've carried visions that seemed delayed, dreams that wouldn't manifest, doors that wouldn't open no matter how much faith you had. But what you didn't see was the invisible construction happening behind the veil. Heaven was laying the foundation for sustainable overflow. Not a momentary breakthrough, but an era of abundance that doesn't fade. So when the door swings open this time, it won't close again. When the blessing comes, it won't slip away. When the overflow starts, it will not stop, because it's been commanded by divine authority. The Lord says, "You have endured the breaking, now behold the blessing. You have walked through the valley, now ascend the mountaintop. You have sown in tears, now reap in joy." Every moment of emptiness was the soil of expectation. Every prayer whispered in darkness was a seed watered by faith. And now heaven sends the rain. You are standing in the fulfillment of promises made long ago. The season of striving is shifting into the season of receiving. The weight you carried is transforming into wings. You are not at the edge of overflow. You are already stepping into it, so lift your eyes, because the horizon is glowing. Lift your heart, because hope is alive again. Lift your hands, because the promise is not coming, it's here. Overflow is not just about what fills your hands, it's about what transforms your heart. It's not merely the increase of things, but the expansion of being. When heaven speaks of overflow, it's talking about divine capacity, the ability to contain more of God's presence, more of His wisdom, more of His purpose flowing through you. The drought was never punishment. It was preparation. When you were in the wilderness, you were not being deprived, you were being defined. God was stripping away every false identity built on what you could do, so He could rebuild you on who you truly are. You learned to trust Him when nothing made sense, and that trust has now become the channel through which overflow will flow. There's a reason you felt pressure on every side. Pressure is proof of potential. When a seed is pressed into the soil, it feels buried. But in truth, it's being positioned. The darkness that surrounded you was the womb of transformation. The soil that seemed to suffocate you was the environment that broke your shell so that new life could emerge. And now, the same God who allowed the pressing is commanding the flourishing. This overflow comes with purpose. God doesn't release abundance just so you can say, "I made it." He releases it so you can become a conduit, a living vessel through which His glory flows. You are not the final destination of His blessings. You are the riverbed that carries life to others. So when you receive overflow, understand that it's meant to multiply. It's meant to break generational cycles, to repair what was broken in your bloodline, to prove that faith still births miracles. Spiritually, overflow means alignment. It means your faith, your obedience, and heaven's timing are finally speaking the same language. It's when your internal belief has matured enough to sustain external blessing. Because if God gives abundance before maturity, it destroys rather than builds. That's why He waited, not because you were forgotten, but because you were still being formed. When you prayed, "God, I'm ready," heaven heard you, but heaven also knew what ready really required. You had to be pruned. You had to release control. You had to learn to be content with little so that you could be trustworthy with much. Overflow doesn't visit the impatient. It rests upon the faithful. Look deeper. Every story of divine abundance in Scripture begins with surrender. The widow gave her last oil. Abraham gave his son. Peter gave his net. And each time God responded not just with provision, but multiplication. Because the divine principle is this: you cannot outgive the source. When you release what you hold, heaven releases what it holds. When you trust beyond logic, the impossible becomes natural. That's what this overflow represents: a spiritual equation where faith outweighs fear, obedience outweighs delay, and heaven outweighs limitation. You've crossed a threshold. You no longer live in reaction to life. You live in partnership with destiny. The old mindset that said, "I have to make it happen," is being replaced with, "I flow with what heaven is doing." You are moving from striving to synchronizing, from force to flow. This is why the Spirit kept whispering to you, "Wait." Because overflow is not something you chase, it's something that meets you when you align. So when you feel divine timing quickening, when opportunities begin to appear faster than you expected, remember, it's not coincidence, it's convergence. Everything you've endured, every prayer, every disappointment, every breakthrough, they're all converging into this moment. You are walking into the manifestation of exceedingly abundantly, above all you could ask or think. The river of God is unstoppable. It doesn't negotiate with obstacles. It flows around them, over them, or breaks them apart. And that same river now flows through you. You are entering a season where your faith will become fruit and your waiting will become witness. The overflow is not coming to prove something to others. It's coming to reveal something within you that you were never empty. You were simply being prepared to carry fullness. So stand in awe not of what's leaving, but of what's arriving. Because heaven is not just answering your prayer, it's exceeding it. You've been sensing it already, haven't you? The subtle changes in the atmosphere. The way your spirit feels alert again, hopeful again, alive again, even if you can't explain why. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Heaven always sends signs before manifestation. Just as the wind shifts before rain, there are spiritual indicators that tell you overflow is near. These signs may seem ordinary at first, but to those with discernment, they carry divine meaning. Sign 1. Divine restlessness. Lately, you felt a holy dissatisfaction with the familiar. The things that once fulfilled you no longer do. It's not that you're ungrateful, it's that your spirit knows there's more. God stirs restlessness not to frustrate you, but to relocate you. When your heart starts to outgrow your environment, it's a sign that heaven is expanding your territory. Sign 2. Unusual clarity. You've noticed moments where confusion suddenly lifts. Directions that once felt blurred now feel illuminated. This is the Spirit of God aligning your perception with His timing. When your eyes begin to see what they couldn't before ideas, opportunities, spiritual patterns, it's a sign that heaven has turned on the light. Sign 3. The reappearance of old prayers. Things you prayed for years ago and forgot suddenly begin to resurface. People reemerge. Conversations reopen. Dormant dreams come alive again. That's not nostalgia. That's resurrection. God is bringing back the requests that were once buried under disappointment, because now the soil is ready to bear fruit. Sign 4. Divine interruptions. You might find plans shifting unexpectedly, paths closing that seemed certain. Yet instead of despair, you feel peace about it. That's divine redirection. God closes lesser doors to protect you from delay. When things stop working without logical reason, it's not rejection, it's realignment. Sign 5. Acceleration without effort. You'll begin to notice things moving faster, not through striving, but through flow. Emails answered quicker, solutions appearing smoother, connections forming naturally. That's the rhythm of overflow. When divine timing activates momentum, becomes your new normal. Sign 6. Inner stillness amid chaos. Even while the world feels noisy and unstable, you'll feel peace that doesn't make sense. That peace is your proof. It's the evidence that heaven has gone before you, leveling the mountains and calming the storms. When these signs appear, don't question them, honor them. They are heaven's notifications, the unseen realm confirming it's happening. And if you're wondering, why me, remember you were marked for this. You were trained for this. Overflow doesn't visit the unprepared. It rests on those who've endured the process of refinement. So if you've felt these signs stirring, take heart. It's not your imagination, it's manifestation beginning. You are walking under divine confirmation, and what heaven has decreed, no human resistance can delay. Stay expectant. The signs are not coming, they're already here. But before the full overflow manifests, there is always a final stretch, a refining passage that tests what was built within you. These are the hidden challenges, the silent trials that appear not to destroy you, but to confirm your readiness. You've probably felt it already. Moments when the pressures seem to return right after you felt breakthrough coming. Days when your faith felt strong in the morning and heavy by night. It's confusing because you thought the warfare was over. But what you're facing now isn't resistance meant to block you. It's pressure meant to purify you. Every divine promise attracts opposition. Whenever heaven releases a word of increase, hell releases a wave of distraction. But hear this, the presence of warfare doesn't mean you're off course. It means you're dangerously close to destiny. One of the hidden challenges you'll face is spiritual fatigue. After so much waiting, your spirit may whisper, "What if it never happens?" That's the enemy's last attempt to plant doubt in the soil of your faith. But even when your strength feels spent, your faith is still working. Heaven honors endurance more than perfection. Another challenge is emotional detachment. As God elevates you, He will also isolate you. Not because you're unloved, but because overflow requires focus. You may feel misunderstood, left out, or unseen, but that solitude is sacred. It's where God solidifies your foundation, where He makes sure your confidence is rooted in Him, not in applause. Then there's the test of patience. When things start shifting slowly, you might be tempted to force outcomes or hurry the process. But overflow cannot be microwaved. It must mature. If God releases it too soon, you'll lose it too fast. So He slows the pace not to deny you, but to anchor you. And yes, some relationships will be tested. Not everyone who walked with you through lack can handle your abundance. Some will misinterpret your overflow as arrogance when it's actually obedience. Don't chase validation. Stay aligned with vision. Divine promotion often requires divine separation. Perhaps the hardest challenge is the silence of God. Right before the breakthrough, heaven sometimes grows quiet. You pray, but the answers feel delayed. You seek confirmation, but all you hear is stillness. Yet even in that silence, He is speaking not through words, but through positioning. The teacher is always silent during the test. These challenges aren't signs of failure. They're proof of transformation. Every weight you carry now is strengthening the wings you'll need for flight. Every tear that falls is watering the soil of your next harvest. So when the tension rises, don't retreat. Lift your head and remember, this is the proving ground of the promise. The fire you're walking through isn't consuming you. It's refining you. The shaking you feel isn't breaking you. It's aligning you. The silence you endure isn't absence. It's strategy. Hold steady. Overflow isn't delayed. It's developing. And when the test ends, you'll see it clearly. Every hidden challenge was actually heaven's way of saying you're ready now. Now that the testing is near its end, listen carefully, for heaven rarely pours without first preparing the vessel. This is the moment where divine instruction comes forth like light breaking through the clouds. The Spirit is speaking not to your mind, but to your spirit. And His voice is clear. If you would walk in overflow, you must align your atmosphere. That means your thoughts, your words, your posture, your daily rhythm, all must match what heaven has decreed. You cannot carry a promise this powerful with an old mindset. You cannot walk into abundance while speaking lack. You cannot move like you're waiting when heaven says you're already walking. So here is what heaven is saying in this hour. Simple, sacred instructions that will prepare you for the river about to flow. Instruction 1. Guard your inner climate. Overflow requires stillness within. The enemy cannot block what's ordained, but he will try to disturb your peace so you can't perceive what's coming. Guard your atmosphere like a sacred garden. When chaos rises, choose calm. When doubt whispers, declare truth. The storm outside doesn't determine the forecast. Inside, your faith does. Instruction 2. Speak from victory, not from waiting. Your words are gates. Speak as one who has already crossed through. Stop saying it will happen someday, and start saying it's unfolding now. Faith doesn't wait for evidence. Faith creates evidence. Heaven moves fastest where language agrees with destiny. Every word of gratitude, every declaration of faith becomes a magnet for miracles. Instruction 3. Stay in the flow of giving. The principle of overflow is circulation, not collection. The river of blessing flows to you, so it can also flow through you. Generosity isn't losing, it's multiplying. When you release time, love, encouragement, resources, heaven replenishes it exponentially. Overflow stagnates when we hold too tightly. Keep your hands open, and heaven will keep them full. Instruction 4. Maintain spiritual order. When abundance comes, so does responsibility. Set boundaries. Protect your time with God. Don't let new blessings pull you out of divine alignment. The oil that sustained you in obscurity must also cover you in visibility. Stay grounded in humility. Remember who lifted you. Instruction 5. Obey promptly and quietly. In this season, delayed obedience will feel like disconnection. When the Spirit nudges you, even in small things, move immediately. Heaven rewards speedy faith. Every time you respond without hesitation, another layer of limitation breaks. Sometimes, obedience won't make sense. You'll be asked to give when you feel empty, to bless those who doubted you, to walk away from something that looks good but isn't God. Trust the leading. The overflow flows through obedience, not convenience. Instruction 6. Honor the season you're in. Don't rush out of process because it feels uncomfortable. Every divine cycle has a rhythm: sowing, watering, harvesting. If you're still watering, keep watering. The harvest is closer than it looks. Your consistency is your covenant. Heaven takes attendance in faithfulness. Instruction 7. Remain expectant. Expectation is the doorway of overflow. Wake up each day saying something good is already moving in my favor. Expect divine appointments. Expect answered prayers. Expect restoration where there was loss. You don't have to see the path to believe it's there. You just have to keep walking in faith until faith becomes sight. These instructions aren't burdens, they're bridges. Each one moves you from waiting to walking, from hoping to holding. And as you follow them, you'll notice something begin to shift. You'll sense divine acceleration, divine confirmation, divine favor. The heavens will respond to your obedience like a musician to a melody. For the overflow isn't just about what is coming, it's about who you become come as it comes. So stand ready. Keep your lamp trimmed and burning. For what you've prayed for is now standing at your door, not as a visitor, but as a resident. You've walked through storms before. You faced nights when the silence was loud and the road ahead was invisible. But listen, you were never unprotected. You were never alone. The same hand that shielded you in the valley is the same hand that now carries you into overflow. Heaven has stationed angels around your destiny. They have been guarding your path long before you knew what was coming. Every delay that frustrated you, every redirection that confused you, those were not denials, they were divine defenses. God was saying, "Not this door. I have something better prepared." In this new season of abundance, divine protection doesn't lessen, it intensifies. Because greater blessing attracts greater attention. But fear not. The same glory that announces your elevation also establishes your covering. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment will fall silent under heaven's decree. God is surrounding your overflow like a fortress of light. He's setting boundaries that darkness cannot cross. He's sealing the blessings so that nothing, no envy, no sabotage, no spiritual interference can taint what He's prepared for you. You'll begin to notice this protection tangibly. Doors that would have exposed you will close quietly. People with hidden motives will suddenly distance themselves. Plans that seemed promising but weren't divinely aligned will dissolve without warning. And though it may sting at first, you'll soon see every subtraction was a shield. This is not the season to fear loss, it's the season to trust covering. Heaven is clearing your atmosphere for purity of flow. And for every attack that was designed to distract you, there is divine recompense already in motion. Every arrow sent toward your progress has been intercepted. Every curse spoken against your name has been reversed. The Lord has turned it all into testimony proof that He fights for His own. You are walking under divine insurance, not the kind made by man, but the kind sealed by blood and fire. When you step, angels step. When you speak, authority echoes. When you rest, heaven stands watch. So breathe deeply. Let the anxiety lift off your chest. You don't have to look over your shoulder anymore. The battle has shifted hands from yours to God's. Even now there is a stillness settling over your spirit. That's peace, not the fragile peace of circumstance, but the eternal peace that flows from divine certainty. Heaven whispers, you are covered. You are surrounded. You are safe. And that assurance isn't temporary, it's permanent. Because where God sends overflow, He also establishes walls of glory around it. So walk boldly, rest freely, rejoice confidently, for nothing can touch what heaven has consecrated. And now, the moment long prophesied is unfolding. The clouds that once hid the sun are parting. The atmosphere around your life is changing. You can feel it, can't you? The weight you carried for years is lifting. The battles that once defined you are dissolving in the presence of divine fulfillment. This is the hour of becoming where everything you've endured starts to make sense. Every wilderness now reveals its purpose. Every tear shows its harvest. Every closed door turns out to be divine direction. You are stepping into a rhythm of grace that no effort could create. Things that used to feel heavy now happen with ease. The same hands that once trembled from waiting now overflow with answered prayers. The same heart that once ached from rejection now beats with gratitude. Overflow is not just happening around you, it's happening through you. You have become a vessel of divine manifestation. The presence of God flows through your words, your creativity, your presence, your decisions. People will begin to feel the shift before you even speak, because your spirit now carries the fragrance of fulfillment. And yet this isn't pride, it's purpose. You've been anointed for this moment. The oil that was produced in obscurity is now visible. The crown that was invisible in pain is now radiant in glory. Look at how far you've come. Once you doubted if you'd even make it through the storm, now you're walking on the very waters that once tried to drown you. Once you feared the night, now you understand that the night was necessary to reveal your light. Once you asked, "Why me now?" you declare, "Thank you, God, that you chose me." This is what transformation looks like: peace where panic used to live, joy where sorrow once ruled, confidence where insecurity once whispered lies. You are not the same person who entered the fire. You came out refined, not ruined. Heaven is not just giving you new blessings, it's giving you a new identity. No longer the one who struggled, but the one who carries glory. No longer the one who waited, but the one who walks in it. The fulfillment of the prophecy isn't just in what you receive, it's in who you've become through the process. You've learned that favor isn't about being seen, it's about being sent. That overflow isn't about possessions, it's about purpose fulfilled. And now, everything begins to align. Resources find you. Destiny connections locate you. Opportunities open with divine timing. The earth is responding to the authority of your calling. You've entered the frequency of heaven's abundance, and nothing can interrupt it. Listen. The very atmosphere around your life is shifting. The same way the dawn dissolves the darkness, the light of divine completion is breaking through your days. You've crossed over, from striving to flowing, from endurance to ease, from promise to possession. And soon you'll realize overflow was never about chasing miracles. It was about becoming the miracle. Everywhere you go, grace will follow. Everything you touch will multiply. Every word you speak in alignment will carry creative power. You've stepped into divine fulfillment. This is your, and it came to pass. Breathe it in. This is what victory feels like. Not noisy, not forced, but peaceful, steady, undeniable. You've arrived in the season heaven wrote for you before time began. Take a breath. Let your spirit absorb every word that has been spoken. Heaven has released it, and now it belongs to you. You are no longer standing in the waiting room of destiny. You are walking in fulfillment. Every chain of limitation has broken. Every door ordained for you has opened. Every word spoken against you has been reversed. You have crossed over into overflow, and this time it will remain. The rain that's falling over your life now will not cease. The favor that's flowing will not dry up. The light within you will not dim. This is your appointed hour. Heaven's decree over you has been written and sealed. No more lack. No more limits. No more delay. So now speak these affirmations aloud, not as requests, but as reality. Let them rise from your heart like incense before the throne. I am walking in divine overflow. Every area of my life aligns with heaven's abundance. 2. I am free from every limitation. No fear, no doubt, no past can restrain what God has released. 3. I am surrounded by divine protection. Angels go before me, and peace guards my every step. I am chosen for divine expansion. My capacity grows daily to carry more of God's glory. 5. I am becoming everything heaven saw when it created me. I walk in purpose, power, and perfect timing. Repeat these words until they take root in your spirit. Every time you speak them, they become reality, because your voice is now in agreement with heaven's voice. And now receive this final blessing. May every dry place in your life bloom again. May every closed door that was ordained for you swing open effortlessly. May your hands never lack what your heart needs to fulfill destiny. May the oil upon your life never run dry. May peace be your portion and joy your song. May those who see you testify. The Lord has done great things for them. You have crossed the threshold. You have stepped into overflow. And the one who began this work in you will perfect it in glory. Walk forward not with fear, but with fire, not with uncertainty, but with unshakable confidence. For heaven declares, it is done, it is sealed, it is fulfilled. Go forth in peace, abundance, and divine authority. Your season of overflow has begun, and it will not end.